So I hope you had a good holiday weekend, whether you celebrate Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas, or maybe some other holiday that I'm not aware of around this time of the year. But either way, I hope you had a good holiday weekend with your family, your friends, yourself as well. So I hope your holidays were good this past weekend. But for all 32 NFL teams playing in Week 16 of this 2023 season, they were certainly looking to have a good holiday this past weekend as well. Whether it be trying to lock up some playoff berths or trying to just get some wins in general, they're trying to avoid that one thing that most people always try to avoid, and that was a big sack of coal. So let's talk about the week that was Week 16 of this 2023 NFL season on this festive holiday weekend. So kicking things off on Thursday Night Football, only on Amazon Prime Video, Matthew Stafford's 2 touchdowns and a couple of field goals from the rookie kicker, Lucas Harviskevich. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. It put up the Rams up big before they had to hold off a late Saints rally as the LA Rams put up themselves a little bit in a much more firm position in their playoff pursuit as they beat the New Orleans Saints on Thursday night, 30-22. Then we had a couple of Saturday games, as NBC dubbed them, the holiday doubleheader, as Mason Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, took advantage of a suddenly inept Bengals offense with a 21-point first-half barrage that saved the Steelers' playoff hopes, for now at least, as Pittsburgh beat the Cincinnati Bengals 34-11. And then, in the Peacock exclusive game later on in the night, the Easton Stick Chargers gave the Buffalo Bills a run for their money, but some big passes from Josh Allen late in the game were enough to set up a Tyler Bass field goal that gave them the go-ahead late lead and the win after some lateral play from the Clippers, as the Bills went on to survive the Chargers 24-22. Then we had the Christmas Eve slate on Sunday, starting with the early morning portion. Taylor Heineke, who took over for the once again struggling Desmond Ridder, he steered the helm in a pretty solid fashion as he set up his kicker, Younghoe, who very oftenly he took care of the rest with 5 field goals, and the Falcons sacked Gardner Minshew 6 times, respectively, in a season-saving performance for Atlanta as they beat the Indianapolis Colts 29-10. The Panthers stormed back from a 30-16 fourth quarter deficit to tie the game against the Green Bay Packers, but Jordan Love drove his team down in position for his kicker, Anders Carlson, to retake the lead as time simply ran out for the Panthers to force overtime 33-30. That honestly was a game that the Packers should have ran away with, but yet they allowed. Receiver Amari Cooper led the way with a franchise record-breaking day with 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, as the Browns beat down the C.J. Stroudless Texans 36-22 in a key battle for playoff positioning. Browns just one step closer to getting a playoff berth, all without Deshaun Watson, mind you. Despite a 2-touchdown game from running back Jahmyr Gibbs, the Lions had to stave off a very feisty Minnesota Vikings team, which unfortunately just shot itself in the foot one too many times with 4 Nick Mullins interceptions, as the Lions went on to hold off the Minnesota Vikings 30-24 and clinch its first ever NFC North title and its first division title in over 30 years when they were first in the NFC Central. But the Lions went to hold on against the Minnesota Vikings, and now they're in the playoffs. And we'll be hosting a playoff game now. So good for them. Good for them. The Jets jumped out to a 21-0 lead in the first quarter. Yes, in the first quarter. And extended it to 27-7 in the third. However, the Washington Commanders once again made that change from Sam Howell to Jacoby Brissett. And slowly but surely, Washington would jump right back in it late in the fourth. And they got the late lead too. But unfortunately, they would shit that away with 5 seconds left as Greg Zuerlein, Greg the Leg, saved the Jets with a last-second field goal as the Jets beat the Commanders 30-28. Down 17-13, a returning Geno Smith led the Seahawks on their second straight game-winning drive by finding his tight end Cody Parkinson in the end zone for the late lead and the win over the Tennessee Titans 20-17. Going into the afternoon slate of games, the Bucs forced 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions on Trevor Lawrence, and 1 lost fumble on him, Trevor Lawrence ended up leaving the game with a shoulder injury in the fourth quarter, and Baker Mayfield took care of the rest with 2 touchdowns as the Bucs put up a total clinic, a total beatdown on their all elite counterpart in Florida in the Jaguars, 30-12. The ground game of Khalil Herbert and Justin Fields dominated the day for the Bears as they beat the Cardinals 27-16. Not much else to say there. Dak Prescott's late touchdown pass to Brandon Cooks gave the Cowboys the lead with just 3 minutes left to go, but Tua answered right back with a drive to get his kicker Jason Saunders in position for his 5th and game-winning field goal as the Dolphins beat the Cowboys 22-20. Then we had the NFL Network nightcap game as the Patriots scored 20 third-quarter points in a very flurry to hold a 23-7 lead going into the fourth quarter, but the Broncos rallied back to tie the game with just 3 minutes left to go. Unfortunately, that's all they could muster as Bailey Zappi led his team down the field for a game-winning field goal that Chad Ryland would kick with just 7 seconds left as the Patriots went on to upset the Broncos 26-23 and in essence dealing a major blow to the Broncos' playoff hopes. Then going to the Christmas Day slate of games, there were 3 games all across the board, all around the world, all around the United States. And we started things off with a Raiders team highlighted by a fumble and a pick 6 in just 7 seconds. Yeah, 7 seconds the Raiders scored on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But the Raiders defense put the heat seeker on Patrick Mahomes in a big Christmas upset over the Chiefs, 20-14. Like, holy shit. Nobody expected that. I wonder who won the Nickelodeon MVP for this game. Like, wow. Anyway, in the afternoon game, the Eagles nearly squandered a 20-3 halftime lead. A litany of mistakes, starting from the second half kickoff. That included, yes, that second half kickoff that I just mentioned, and a Jalen Hurts pick 6 that shouldn't have been intercepted or shouldn't have been thrown. But nonetheless, the Giants crawled their way back, and Tyrod Taylor just couldn't complete the comeback. He was intercepted on the final play in the end zone, and the Eagles just barely, by the thick of their skin, hold on to beat the Giants 33-25. And then in the nightcap game, while the Ravens defense forced 4 interceptions on quarterback Brock Purdy, Lamar Jackson solidified who the real MVP is with a torching of the 49er defense. Like, he was pretty much dumping an entire Levi Stadium of coal on them as the Ravens put the beat down, put the hurt on my San Francisco 49ers, 33-19. So those are your games. Those are your slate around the holiday weekend. Let me know how your team did or didn't do, and if your team is or was in pursuit of a playoff berth. Well, let me know how your team is doing or how your team is failing in their pursuit of the playoffs. So, in the spirit of the holiday tradition this past weekend, let's talk about my 2 goodies and my 2 baddies for this past week. Starting with my 2 goodies, the Tampa Bay Bucks. You know, and I guess we could say at this point for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, December continues to be kind as Baker Mayfield, the Bucks, they continue to roll. They continue to look pretty impressive. I mean, I don't know if I could say that the Bucks are going to go too far into the playoffs, but I can say at least, you know, Baker Mayfield is looking very good for them. Maybe it's the system that he's in. Maybe it's the players that around him, they really like him and all that. But nonetheless, I think Baker Mayfield, from what I've seen in terms of like the little highlights on Twitter, YouTube, and all that, he once again looked like a very good quarterback in stride with his top receiver Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. The offense is pretty much very flowing around Mayfield. And then the defense, it's really picking up steam too, finding ways to generate tons of pressure on the quarterback, and they're creating turnovers in the secondary as well to create ample opportunity for their offense. So I'm fully expecting now these red-hot Pirates to continue to fire the cannons next week going into a NFC South title battle against the New Orleans Saints. It's pretty much a kind of a win-or-go-home situation for the Saints, but more importantly for the Bucks, an opportunity to win the division here and then pretty much lock in for the playoffs. And then the Las Vegas Raiders, I don't expect them to kind of make this miracle run to the postseason, but well, that's because they have plenty of flaws. But I do think that for all the fun that we made about them, I think I had my fair share of that as well. But I do think that there's something. There's definitely something in interim head coach Antonio Pierce. Just as long as owner Mark Davis doesn't completely micromanage and fuck him up. But I do think that Antonio Pierce, in the time that he has held the ship, that has steered the helm since they fired Josh McDaniels, I think he's made the very most of that mess that he's been giving. Despite an inconsistent quarterback in the rookie Aiden O'Connell, the rest of the team around him, such as the reserve running backs, because Josh Jacobs is injured, and then the defense led by Max Crosby, they have stepped up very well to make plays happen. Like the Raiders defense that has been like one of the worst prior to this year, it's become a strength of this team all of a sudden, especially in these last two games against the Chargers and the Chiefs. So especially this Chiefs game, like nobody expected the Raiders to win this game. Like I certainly didn't, but damn, they put on a clinic against Patrick Mahomes. So owner Mark Davis, I don't think he should make the mistake he made last time with an interim head coach having this red hot run, that being Rich Bisaccia. But I think this time around, I think Antonio Pierce, with what he has done, even with some mixed results, but I mean, it's becoming pretty clear that I think he's earned. I think he's earned the head coaching gig on a full-time basis after this season. So I think he's well on his way. And then in terms of the baddies, the all-elite Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, at this point, we can point out the troubles that their secondaries had when their pass rush doesn't hit home or when they can't create turnovers. But I think when you look at that game against the Bucs, it's pretty evident that Trevor Lawrence has a lot of blame as well. Lawrence turned the ball over 3 times, all resulting in scoring drives for the Bucs, and that was before he left with the shoulder strain. So it's not like, the injury was the main reason why the Jaguars were down that big to Tampa. It was because Trevor Lawrence can't protect the football. Kind of also the reason why the Jaguars were down and lost in that game the week prior to the Ravens. So your team is kind of shitting the bed when you're also kind of shitting the bed against a team that people kind of were making fun of in the Bucs and the rest of the NFC South. That's bad. That is really bad if you're Jacksonville. So you're even more trouble in these final 2 games if you can't even beat the Carolina Panthers. And even if you do beat the Carolina Panthers, you still have the Houston Texans on your ass, because if they get CJ Stroud back from the concussion protocol, and if the Colts somehow manage to bounce back from the feisty Las Vegas Raiders, the Jaguars are in serious trouble. They are in serious trouble to not only lose the AFC South, but they're in danger of possibly missing the playoffs altogether. And even if they win the AFC South by chance that, they win these last 2 games, and the Colts and the Texans play each other in the final week of the regular season, and they just beat up on each other, they're 1 and done. The Jaguars are going to be 1 and done in the playoffs. So this is very bad for the Jaguars team that was getting close to the top seed, but then they have plummeted down. They have absolutely plummeted down, not just because of injuries, but also because of the quarterback play that is down them with Trevor Lawrence. And then the Kansas City Chiefs, like it is an interesting case where they are right now, like even with all the problems that are surrounding them. But damn, it's just like this game, they should, even with all their problems, like this is a game that they should have won. I'm sorry to say it. Like they knew that they should have I'm not necessarily wiped the floor with the Raiders, but this is a game that they could have had and claimed their eighth straight division title in however long since they had Patrick Mahomes. But instead, the receivers and now their offensive line, they dropped the ball. In case of the receivers, they dropped the ball again. The offensive line, oh nope, we're gonna just let the Raiders pressure Patrick Mahomes up the ass, and the run defense literally disappeared against a backup in Zamir White, who had one of his best days in his career, if not his best in his short while. So Mahomes has some fair blame as well for what happened in those turnovers that resulted in touchdowns. But the problems across the board just got even more glaring. So much more glaring that I think Nickelodeon might have had some fun with that as well. So even if they do end up winning the division, which they probably will at some point in these final 2 games, it's just like, these are things that you cannot overlook. Going for the Chiefs into their playoff stretch. Now, whether they have to play 2 games at home and then possibly the AFC Championship if they even make it to that point, or they get the 3 seed and then they have to play the divisional. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's like, this is a team that doesn't feel like one going to January. It's like they don't have a team identity, like a team first identity. It's like a me first kind of thing if you're the Chiefs. So let's end things off with our playoff watch that we've been doing for all the month of December. So let's take a look at where we are at in terms of the playoff picture. So the the Chargers joined the Panthers, the Patriots, the Cardinals, the Commanders, the Jets, and the Titans on their January cruise to Cancun. There'll be a couple more teams that will be joining them on their January cruise to Cancun in the final 2 weeks of the season. But there's just a lot more to be settled. The Bills moved up to the number 6 seed after their win against the Chargers, and after the Bengals lost to the Steelers. So good news for the Bills as they get a little bit closer to clinching their playoff spot and potentially even to the AFC East division if Miami slips up just one more time. The Lions earned the gift of the NFC North division with their win over the Minnesota Vikings. So they're officially into the playoffs, and they still have actually a chance at earning the number 1 seed if the Niners somehow manage to fuck things up, and so do the Eagles too. By beating the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Bucs put themselves 1 win away from clinching the NFC South next week if they take care of business against the Saints in that must-win game for both teams. The Bucs are officially NFC South champions. The Miami Dolphins claimed their ticket to the big dance in January with their last-second win over the Cowboys. And next week, in that big game against the Baltimore Ravens, that could be a determining battle for the number 1 seed in the AFC. They win that game, they get the AFC East. By losing in that game against the Raiders, the Chiefs are officially out of the running for the AFC's top seed. So the Chiefs are going to have to play in the first round of the playoffs. So no number 1 seed for the Kansas City Chiefs, no first round bye. So I guess we're going to have to see 3 full games of Taylor Swift on the hard cam. Pal, you're going to have to get used to that. So anyway, that is your playoff watch. So a lot left to be decided. Like, how many spots do we have now left in the postseason? Like 6 at least, 6 or 7 across the board. But still lots left to be decided. A lot of madness to be fondled. But either way, should be a good race down the wire. And let's prepare for the New Year's madness that's about to ensue. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on this week 16 that was in the comments below. Let me know how your team did or didn't do in this holiday weekend. Anyway, this is DylanLasagna signing out of another NFL weekly recap for the 2023 NFL season. And as always, keep the lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until the next one, peace out and happy holidays.